Okay, I thought I had muted my mic, but a good thing I double checked. Yeah, so we are back to Gilded Shadows. Know that Andromeda 6 and Silver Shields are done for now. The developer for Silver Shields is planning on continuing, but I think it's mostly them working on it, so that's going to be a while. But Andromeda 6, there's a whole team, and like I said before, there's 2 chapters and then an epilogue left for that. So next Sunday we'll be back to Gilded Shadows, but I didn't want to wait until then. So I don't know if I'm going to continue streaming on Wednesdays, we'll see. So something I've been pondering is World of Warcraft has started doing a classic reboot of their game. So basically you could actually play the version of World of Warcraft, you know, the very start of World of Warcraft, vanilla, if you will. And then they released Burning Crusade, and then Wrath of the Lich King, and they're going to release Cata next month. Well, that's when I started playing World of Warcraft, was during Cataclysm. That's what I remember. And I have seriously tried to play vanilla and Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, but it was so clunky and slow and painful. Cataclysm really clicked with me. I don't know if I would have stuck with it if I had started earlier. So my thought was, as long as you have a World of Warcraft subscription, you can play Classic as well as Retail. So my thought was actually live stream me playing through a new character with Classic Cata. Starting with when they release Cata, which is next month. I wrote it down. The 20th of May. So that's something I've been pondering. I don't know if I'm going to at least play through the starting zone. Because my thought was to actually start out with a Worgen, because when I first started playing World of Warcraft, I was doing the trial, so I couldn't play any races that were only available through one of the expansions. But this time I would be able to play a Worgen, which, seriously, if that had been available when I started playing World of Warcraft, I would have gone for it. But anyway, so that's something to ponder. Haven't fully decided, but for now, we are going to continue with Reuben's route. Where is it? There it is, chapter 6. So, basically, the main character is this is a world where ESP is a thing. There's a good number of people that have it, but there's two ways you can get it. One way is through nanobots, I guess, and those are easy to track. And there's also what's called fairy espers, where I guess it's more spontaneous. And there's different ranks depending on how powerful you are. And the main character is what's called a queen rank. And the special thing about queen ranks is they can mimic the abilities of others and even the psi waves of non-espers. So they can basically pass themselves off as non-espers. And that's what the main character has been doing. Up until recently. So there's basically 9 different potential love interests, and the developer suggested a specific order for playing through the various routes, because you learn about you get background info depending on which route you're playing, and some routes you get more than others. And so the author / developer suggested a specific order or a specific route if you're only going to do it once, or just one route on a stream. Did I actually follow that? No, because I have wanted to do the Reuben romance since I played the demo. I would have to look up when I actually played it, and I honestly don't think I even have it written down anywhere. I think I would have to actually watch the video clip, and I don't feel like it. But yeah, I have wanted to romance Reuben pretty much from the start, from the moment we first encountered him. And in this most recent chapter, basically the leader of Endgame, one of the factions that want to recruit you, well, he's not necessarily the leader, he's like the face of Endgame. He basically shows up and he's like, I want you to continue with what you're doing, and you have my my unspoken support. But he can't openly support this. But basically what you're doing now is basically showing that even if Espers don't end up being trained by Endgame, they're safe. They're not going to hurt you. And you can be a protected part of society without having to go into Endgame or one of the other factions. So that's where we're at. So I've been doing, since I started Reuben's route, I've been doing 2 chapters per thing. So yeah, let's continue. Like a candle. And there's 14 chapters per love interest route, and that's not including the 4 chapters of the common route, and then you either have an endgame interlude or a crimson interlude. And that's depending on if you decide to go with one of those factions, but there are other routes besides Reuben that don't go to either of those. So, Chapter 6, Like a Candle. I know this is what we were planning for, but I'm worried about taking you to this scene with me. Yeah, you're basically using your ESP to help Reuben with crime scenes, because he's basically working for the police. So in this case, fuck the police quite literally. There's definitely attraction on both sides. I didn't expect a murder case when I started all this. Well, Cerna averages about 2 homicides per day, high for the day side, low if we're comparing to the night side. Do you suspect the connections with Delphine contribute? Difficult to say for sure, but most likely. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't even be helping with these now that I'm assigned as your protective agent, but given that we planned for this, and the short staffing... Oh, you've been doing Errant Kingdom, that's right. Now, which, are you doing Ambassador, Knight, Nomad? Because that affects the routes too. I kind of like Libya and Nomad together, just because, it's Nomad with the Knight Commander, basically. Yeah, and the short staffing. Anyway, look, the SI department tends to get a lot of the more serious crimes. Criminals with Psi aren't exactly using it for illegal parking. As a knight, yeah, I definitely recommend doing all 3 categories, like the Ambassador, the Knight, and the Nomad, because the story is slightly different from each, and you kind of get unique perspectives depending on which one of them you're playing. So I definitely recommend doing all 3, as well as romancing everybody, and doing the poly routes as well as each member of the poly route individually. Just my recommendation is just do it all, but I'm a completionist like that. That seems like a way better use of Psi, to be honest. What disturbs me is that Esper-related violent crimes are on the rise. That should disturb everyone, but it's especially bad news for someone like me. It's a bit of a dilemma, isn't it? More Espers out here means more Esper crime. Not because Espers are inherently bad, but because they're inherently human, and humans make bad decisions. And plus, if there's just more Espers in general, there's more of a likelihood that some of them will go wrong. Oh, Lucian and Raiden with the Nomad is beautiful as well. It's interesting how doing the poly route affects the actual members of the poly romance as well. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. But it also means we need more Espers out here to deal with those situations, because your average SD officer or SI officer can't always handle an angry or desperate telekinetic. Contradictions like this mean there are other influences and problems that need to be solved as well, things that can't be solved by keeping Espers locked away. Oh, there definitely are. If Espers didn't have to hide, they wouldn't be as likely to get involved in things they shouldn't. That's true. Anyway, I'm sure it's unnerving for you that violent crimes seem more prevalent once you're on the inside. But in spite of it, just remember, there are millions of people in the city, and most of them did not get murdered today. Cold comfort for the ones that did. Do we get more details on the crime scene before we get there this time? I have minimal information right now, but yes, I was going to brief you before we got there. I know they're reading high psi waves there, which indicates Esper involvement. The victims are related, and one is a P-class individual. P-class. Fuck. That's... I think that's the lowest level. That's like unranked. Or maybe, or is that Reuben's level? I forget. Yeah, but just because you finished Gilded Shadows doesn't mean you don't have to open it all over again. You can still just play through the routes, play through your favorites again. The psi waves our scans picked up aren't the same as psychometric echoes, which are more of an imprint in space. A lingering psi wave is much more analogous to a fingerprint because they relate back to specific individuals. But there's no way to use it as an identifier, I guess. We have a database of them actually, but it's quite small and not always as useful as you'd think. For instance, rooks don't tend to leave strong psi fingerprints because their psionic energy is more turned inward. Yeah, rooks, I've been replaying bits and pieces of When the Night Comes a lot, and some of the other games that I played. Yeah, rooks have biokinetic abilities, so they just enhance themselves. They don't affect the environment around them, which makes sense. Huh, that's interesting. Look, you need to be prepared for this one, okay? You're going as a crime scene observer, and you'll have to look through this place this time, and, well, there are still 2 bodies in there. You may find it disturbing. Okay. I can handle it. I've mentally prepared myself this time. I'm not sure if you really can prepare yourself for something like this. I know you can handle it, but it's always harder than you expect. Exactly. Different or not, it's not the first crime scene I've been to, and not the first psychometric experience, assuming I have one. Oh, your birthday's coming up? Jeez, there's a lot of April birthdays. Like, there was like 5 days in a row someone I knew or adjacently knew had a birthday, including my brother. My brother had his birthday earlier this week. That's true, but Reuben, I can handle it. I will handle it. I have to. In 10 days. Well, happy early birthday, 10 days early. Please, have faith in me. This won't be like the last time. It's not that I don't have faith in you, Dahlia. However, I'm not as fragile as you think, I promise. I understand that you've only seen me at my weakest since I arrived. When I'm scared and overwhelmed, I sometimes break down. Believe me when I say I'm very aware that I don't always handle the unexpected in the best possible way. I haven't exactly demonstrated a lot of strength or ability to manage my emotions. I get it. That's not true at all, Dahlia, and that's not why I'm concerned. I am prepared for this. I just feel comfortable being vulnerable around you, but I'm not vulnerable all the time. Oh, that's a sign. That's a sign. He's safe for her to feel vulnerable. And that's a special thing. None of that is my concern. I've seen you struggle and immediately pick yourself up. I'm well aware that you're strong. But I also know that crime scenes like this are rough for people who aren't used to them. Rookies struggle, and they train for this. It can be intense, and you won't understand what it's like until you get there. Dahlia, I've seen crime scenes that were difficult for me, and I've been doing this for a while. We see the worst there is, and we have to stay level-headed and composed. That's harder than people think. And I know you. You'll try to push through no matter how hard it is. If you show any weakness, you'll beat yourself up, because you always do. That's my concern. I'd be worried about anyone going to their first scene as an investigator. It has nothing to do with strength or weakness. Oh. I like this music. Alright, any strategies for coping? Since I don't have official training for this like a normal rookie, any strategies for coping if it gets tough? In the moment, take a break and step outside if you need to. It's better to have a private moment than to lose it in front of everyone. And it's not uncommon for newcomers to need some space or a breather. Don't feel bad if you need that. Just do it. Don't try to push through. Take your time. And if it's rough, don't keep it bottled up after it's all over. Everyone copes differently. They go for walks, they go for a workout after a long day, or they talk. Just be open about what you need and remember to talk about it if it's too upsetting. You didn't actually sign up for this, and not as anything more than a necessary evil. So it's not like you've been training and expecting this like others. You were thrown in head first, so finding your footing may take more time. And that's fine. Alright, I'll keep all that in mind and try to pace myself. But for the record, I think I've demonstrated I don't keep things bottled up. I'm way more likely to humiliate myself by going to pieces. See? That. It's not embarrassing to have an emotional response, so stop thinking of it that way. Fine. I totally didn't embarrass myself last time. That was all in my head and no one was judging me. If they were, that's on them. I wasn't judging. Oh, sweetie. And of course, your opinion is what matters. My heart, these two, I can't. I'd like to think so. Don't worry, I'm going to be fine. I know you will be. Oh, this is nice. I like this. Very modern. I like that. That's so cool. Ooh, flowers. Ooh, all the books. Can I have the books? I want the books. I'm a book nerd, what can I say? The crime scene when we arrived at it was chaotic, much more so than the other one. Much of the chaos was outside it since there were onlookers this time. We had to push through them first. There were more people inside than last time, too. Winter met us at the door, and we hovered there while he caught us up on the situation. Near the door, everything looked fine, but the other side of the room was a mess. Overturned chairs, broken glass, so it was an actual struggle. Looks like there was a pretty bad confrontation. The rest of the place is worse. We think it started in the kitchen and dining nook, then moved this way. Victims? 2 adults, Nicholas and Jordan Emerson, 48 and 43 respectively. Cousins. Right, 10 measurement. Both worked at Analytech as mid-tier data analysis. So far, there are no signs of forced entry, but it does seem someone went out one of the windows. Neighbors are saying they didn't see anything out of the ordinary in the lobby or hall. Injuries on both victims appear to be sonic-based. We aren't sure how they fought back so hard against people who were armed. Most of the legal weapons on Arcalis are sound-based. Energy and projectile-based weaponry are illegal in most zones across the planet. Though this was originally due to the low power yield of sonic weapons, making them a less deadly alternative for self-defense or protection, the technology has proved to the point that it's almost useless to differentiate anymore. Sonic weapons range from those that can simply knock a person unconscious to those that can kill. Highly focused sound waves can be nearly as damaging to individuals and property as projectile and energy-based weaponry, and can most certainly kill or cause severe bodily injury. Ooh boy. I'm just thinking about, how there's those really low notes that you can feel more than hear. Do the neighbors hear anything at least? It's a new building and a lot of the adjacent flats are still vacant. 2 neighbors heard a disturbance, but the victims were known to be rowdy, so it didn't immediately raise questions. Murder weapon? We did find one, Class 07 sonic handgun. It would have been quiet enough that neighbors wouldn't hear the blast. Class 07? How did someone get their hands on one of those? I don't know. It's already been turned in, and they're trying to find out where it came from. It was illegal for civilians to be in possession of sonic weapons. I didn't know much about the classifications, but Reuben certainly seemed startled by that. Anyway, Jordan Emerson was a known pseudo-Esper, but the sideways through the place are beyond what you'd expect for someone of that level. So yeah, that's what P-Class is a pseudo-Esper. That's what Reuben is. So we're assuming an Esper perpetrator, or multiple. They've already done a full sweep of the place since they knew you'd be bringing a consultant with you. Alright, I'll have a look around. Dahlia? I'll go at my own pace if that's okay. I'm fine, but I want to take my time and look around properly. If I need to step outside, I will. Understood. Tell me if you need anything. I will, but I'll be okay. I'm not nervous. I mean, I was nervous, but I didn't need to be babysat. Probably. The two of them left me near the entrance, reluctantly on Reuben's part, it seemed. So sweet that he's so concerned. And I let out a soft sigh when they were gone. I found a place where I could stand uninterrupted to survey the room. Closing my eyes, I focused on the residual sign in the room, and there they were, sonic threads, the echoes of the previous occupants and what they left behind. That is so cool. Woo! Awesome. This is absolutely some sort of lighting decor that you could find today. I sensed them before I saw them, but they gradually became clear in my mind until I could see them even with my eyes open. There were so many weaving their way through the flat. Some were faint, some vivid and almost pulsating. Even without touching them, I could now somewhat sense what events they connected to. Near the kitchen were laughter, voices, a party, I thought, an old memory, snippets of conversation reflecting echoes of their lives that had now ended in the most terrible of ways. I shook that thought off and took a deep breath before leaving my spot and moving through the apartment, the brightest threads I wanted to leave for later. Those I suspected might be the important ones. Oh wait, I hadn't even noticed that her eyes had changed. Yes, there we go. Those I suspected might be the important ones. Yeah, I just said that. Okay. Voices floated through my mind as I wandered through. There were brief images, memories. I tried to ignore the sadness creeping up on me. This was work. I could worry about the emotions later. For now, I needed to focus on whatever information I was getting. Their jobs were boring. Nicholas hated his manager. The two of them were being recruited for another project. Something outside of work, but it was through someone they knew at work. There's something odd about that. Something... Flash of anger hit me unexpectedly. Anger deep enough and dark enough that I gasped at the sudden intrusion and stopped in my tracks. I let out a shaky breath as I stepped back away from that spot, trying to identify which thread it had come from. Reuben, I realized, had been nearby watching. He was at my side in an instant. I was side-eyeing him pretty hard. But, in fairness, I had disrupted the crime scene last time, so it's not like his concerns weren't unwarranted. Yeah, it was pretty cool the first time it happened. I mean, we saw Ari's eyes change when he used his abilities, but I didn't realize that the main character's eyes would change too. And I knew he wanted to be nearby to help me if I needed it. This time I was likely to stumble on something way worse than I had last time because I was looking for it. Well, I did get the sense he might not be fretting as much if it was someone other than me. That was not a bad thought, but still. I might have to suggest he give me some space. Very nicely, of course. What is it? Don't be too surprised now, but I had a major psychometric experience. He gave me a look that told me he immediately understood what I was communicating with that tone of voice. Okay, I get the message. I'm hovering. A little. And how did you get to my side that fast? I didn't even see you move. Just saw a sort of dark blur that flew at me. That was some impressive speed walking. Your protective instinct is amazing. Of course, Winter is teasing him. Okay, I get it, but I'm just concerned. There's nothing to be concerned about for now. I'm simply getting a feel for things. There are a lot of sonic threads here, some particularly vibrant ones. I'm sussing out the less distinct ones first, but I got a little hit of emotion I wasn't expecting, that's all. Do you want me to let you know before I walk face first into one of the bigger ones? You're talking about them like you have a map of where they are. Well, I mean, yeah. Most of the brighter ones are closer to where the damage is. Over here, I think it's just echoes left over from day-to-day life. I shrugged. What does that mean? No one can see. Queen rank? They both paused and glanced at each other, as if just now realizing what that might mean for my abilities. We may need some time to get used to having someone of your caliber with us, right? Sounds like it's going to be quite a different experience from what we're used to. Fair, but it is what it is, and I can see sigh. So, however, staying here isn't doing us any good, and I don't think poking these minor echoes with a stick will either. I need to take a look at one of the brighter ones. Over there. If you can see these things and know that you may have a stronger experience before walking into them, it might be best for us to plan accordingly. We don't normally get the opportunity, but in this case, should we clear the room? I don't think you need to go that far. Everyone knows why I'm here. If I have an uncomfortable experience this time, it shouldn't surprise them. Fine, but I want to stay nearby this time, just in case. I narrowed my eyes for a moment, considering whether I wanted to protest that. I didn't know that they gave most of their Esper's moral support, but maybe I should let him have this one. He was worried about me, and I didn't think it was just about my lack of experience as a consultant, or the impact to their reputation for bringing me. He was worried about me, and I didn't entirely dislike that feeling. It really does hover, though, but it was a little endearing. Alright, fine, you can lurk, out of my line of sight. I walked past him and towards the other side of the flat before he could respond, trailing my fingers through one of the thin, bright threads. This was getting closer to the incident, I thought. There was faint anxiety in these echoes, confusion, then fear, and oddly, an unexpected smell. It hit me out of nowhere, a copper scent mixed with something citrusy and astringent. Now, this copper scent makes me think of blood, because I know that that's generally what that blood has a very strong copper smell to it. First, I thought it was part of the theokinetic experience, but I realized I was actually smelling something. I paused and put a hand to my nose, glancing back at Reuben. Do you smell? And everything hit me at once. There was a burning in my throat, an explosion of pain in my temple. Dizziness slammed into me and sent me reeling into a cabinet. Dahlia, stay back! I could feel it building before it happened, and only just managed to get the sluggish warning out before my sigh exploded. It dripped out of me as if by an outside force and went spiraling away like a violent whirlwind. I could sense it picking up things and flinging them around, but I couldn't stop it. My knees hit the floor as I gagged and tried to drag air back into my lungs, but I couldn't breathe. Every psychometric thread in the room zipped toward me at once as if magnetized by my out-of-control sigh. They wrapped themselves around me, squeezing my already constricted lungs and flooding my mind with voices, images, memories, feelings. Rage, terror, anguish, recognition, pain, regret. Someone was pleading. There was a hysterical laugh. I couldn't make sense of it at all. There were flashes of violence, fighting, so many people. Why were there so many people? I couldn't see faces, just silhouetted forms glowing bright in my mind, multiple espers. There was someone raising a weapon, pointing it right at me, or the me in the vision. Something hit me hard and my body went numb. Everything faded to black and silence, and the visions were over. Jump scare. When I woke up, I let out a groan and turned over. Realizing I wasn't home, I sat up with one hand to my head, feeling like I had the worst hangover. It looked sort of like I was in some sort of meeting area. What the? Reuben was at my side in a second. Where am I? Office. We took you to a conference room to recover. What happened? Appeared to be a minor power surge. You're fine, but we had to stun you to get it to stop. Sorry about that. Hi, Amanda. Let me double check what's going on with my Twitter, because I don't always get notification that someone's following me on Twitter. That's Twitter. Okay. There we go. I was looking at the wrong thing. Stun me? That must have been what happened there at the very end. Ugh, I had the worst headache. You're lucky that's all you have. Oh look, he's got a bandage on his cheek. I looked at him from between my fingers. Something about his tone of voice and I realized. What happened? Exactly what I said. I meant to your face. There was a small dermal patch on his cheek and I instantly knew. I reached for it, letting my fingers light against his face. Did I do that? There were some minor injuries from debris, nothing serious. Even so, he took my hand and pulled it away from his face, but didn't release it. The crime scene had some damage in forensics. Well, they're not happy. This is the first time you stirred up a crime scene. Last time, my psi messed up the stands, yeah? What happened today, Dahlia? Phil is concerned that you might not be able to handle these psychometric visions. No, this wasn't related to vision at all. It's not like last time where it panicked or something. We didn't take you to the hospital because you didn't seem to be harmed and we wanted to keep this quiet, but I can't explain what happened, but this wasn't caused by me not being able to handle psychometric experience, Reuben. Then what caused you to spiral into a power surge? I don't know. I hadn't even touched the brightest psionic echoes yet. I was hit by a powerful smell that I thought was kinetic in origin. I turned to you to mention it, and then my psi just exploded. There didn't seem to be a catalyst for it as far as I can tell. F class are known to have unstable psi. Hi, Winter. Winter, I realized, was on the other side of the room, leaning against the wall, watching us. The look on his face wasn't encouraging. I don't think this was just some sort of psi instability, Winter. It's hard to put into words, but I was absolutely in control right up until I wasn't. It sounded like I was struggling, then lost it. I wasn't at all upset, and I don't know. Something felt off. What does that mean? If I knew what it meant, I would be more clear. Was it possible you were just upset, stressed from the scene? F-class Espers are also particularly sensitive to emotions. No, I wasn't just upset or stressed. I was barely stressed at all. Certainly not to the point my psi would go out of control. If that level of upset was enough to trigger a power surge, I should be surging all the time. I agree with you. You didn't look emotional at all when this hit. Not everyone looks upset when they're anxious, Reuben. I gritted my teeth, wishing I could tell him that I was getting upset right now. But it was his job to ask questions, and I shouldn't get annoyed with him. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice from showing the irritation. Well, honestly, Reuben is a little too emotionally invested, so he needs someone like Winter to keep things on track. I'm saying I wasn't upset or emotional. I have had a power surge before, and I know what it feels like to lose control that way. This was not like that. I understand. No, you don't, Winter. You don't understand because you aren't an Esper. No offense. You don't know what this feels like, looks like, or anything. I do. I've been terrified enough to lose control multiple times. This wasn't the same. I'm not trying to accuse. Maybe not, but it feels like you've already decided what happened. And you're talking over me when I've already said that I was perfectly calm at the scene. Past power surges felt like my abilities spilling over, expanding beyond what I could contain. This felt like something reaching inside me and ripping my psi out no matter how hard I tried to hold on to it. It was like it was triggered from the outside this time. You mentioned encountering some kind of smell right before it happened, one you didn't think was theokinetic. That's right. Maybe we should have them do a chemical analysis at the scene, just to rule out that possibility. A chemical that induced a power surge? We need to be certain. Dahlia was the only Esper at the scene, so if not that, we may need to consider the possibility of a psionic trap of some kind. I was thinking of that, actually. I didn't say it, but I was thinking of that when she described what happened. Like, a psionic, landmine or something. Why would anyone leave that kind of trap at the scene? That makes no sense. You're not going to be able to convince anyone. He cut himself off when Reuben glared at him. For a moment, it felt like a battle of wills going on before Winter sighed. Fine, I'll go talk to the team. Not sure what I should be telling them, but I'll handle it. He disappeared, leaving me and Reuben alone. He seems upset. Just frustrated. It's not your fault. I think it is. Look, this sort of thing is something we should get used to. If we want Espers involved more frequently in investigations, we have to accept that there will be accidents. Thank you for taking me seriously on this one. Yeah, accidents because, there hasn't been many Psys doing stuff like this, many Espers. Especially powerful Espers like Dahlia. Hey, of course I'm going to take you seriously. You've been working damn hard to learn about your abilities. You've had plenty of emotional moments that didn't result in something like this. I'm inclined to give the benefit of doubt here. Thanks anyway. If we're considering an outside contaminant, then it may be difficult to schedule another visit for you to finish your psychometric reading. Oh, I don't think that's needed. During that surge, it was sort of like all the threads in that place just snapped into me. I got a lot of information. It's a bit of a jumble, so it may take time to work through everything I saw. Oh, that's actually good news. I didn't think you'd seen anything. We can go through it all together then. Was there anything that stood out? Any faces? No faces, but there were a couple of things I remember. There were a lot more people involved in this than I thought. I counted at least 4 Espers. There might have been more. 4? And another thing, I'm certain the victims recognized the intruders. Some of them, anyway. There were a lot of emotions mixed in with the images. Fear, rage, sadness. Some of that sadness was coming from some of the intruders. Others felt cold, disconnected from the whole thing. It was almost like 2 totally different groups of intruders. The exact chronological events are still a little unclear. I may need some time to unwind all that. Alright, this is good. This is useful. It certainly appears this wasn't a random attack based on what you've said so far. Oh, that's right. Before the surge, I also got a snippet of a conversation about them both being involved in a new project. It wasn't work-related, but I'm not sure what it was. It was something that was going to be bringing in extra money. We'll have to look into the recent activities then. We would have anyway, but this might give us a bit more direction. He smiled slightly, moving a bit of hair out of my eyes. Oh. You see, it's not all bad. This is helpful information. The fact they knew the intruders, the fact there were multiple suspects possibly with different motivations, new projects. Let's go up and add this to an official report. Feeling up for it? Still woozy, but I think I can manage, especially if it might allay some of Phil's concerns. I think it will. I'll try to sort out some of the rest of what I saw and heard. Any specifics I can dig out of the mess. Excellent. Let's go upstairs. I recovered from the power surge much faster this time. Almost no residual issues after a couple of hours. Well, plus, she was well rested and hadn't been dealing with all kinds of shit beforehand. And it was from outside. It hadn't even been that strong a power surge if I was comparing to the last big one where I, brought a building down on my head. The sonic stun gun left me feeling worse, but even that wasn't too bad. They'd used a low setting, just enough to knock me out. So at least writing the reports wasn't absolutely miserable. There had been a tense meeting with Phil, but he was mollified by some of the information I was able to pull out of my psychometric visions. And the possibility I encountered a psionic trap left by the attackers. I wasn't sure how probable that theory was. But with the attackers being Espers, it wasn't out of the question. He did give me a stern warning that I could not cause another stir like the one today. I had useful information, but damaging the crime scene to get it wasn't an acceptable trade-off. I thought that was pretty fair, but Reuben defended me again. Of course he did. Empty room. Even so, I was feeling pretty guilty by the time the meeting ended, just knowing that others were seeing me and my involvement as a problem, that they were questioning if my contributions were worth it. I felt like Phil was regretting offering me this chance. Things weren't starting well, and people were doubting if this would work. Well, it's always a little bumpy when you're first starting out with something new. Phil, Winter, everyone but Reuben. We were working at the office for a long time. They had set up a small workspace for me near Reuben's desk. I would have preferred to go home, but Reuben made a good point that it would be nice for people to see me working and being professional, not hiding, as Winter put it. If I went and hid, it would seem like a bigger deal. I thought that he was probably right when I saw Phil lurking several times, his expression approving. Reuben was busy with calls and chasing down information, which left me on my own to continue organizing everything I'd seen. The more I went through it, the more details I was able to pull out. If I got a lot of useful information, maybe it would offset the problems I'd caused? I could only hope so. To keep a short list of clearer details, I was able to fish out the mess. That one of the attackers was a knight, and that's why there was no forced entry. That the attackers had been fighting each other, and that was what caused the damage to the flat. Beyond that, most of what I could make out was just supported other things I'd said already. Ready to go home? You've been at it for a while. I sat back and stretched the kinks out of my back, but went right back to typing on my interface without looking up. Sure, let me finish up with these notes, then I'll send you what I have so far. He leaned against his desk to wait, then handed me my jacket as I stood. Tough day, huh? Yeah, I definitely didn't contribute to that on my own at all. Come on, let's get home. Much of the agents had cleared out by then, but there were a few stragglers. When Phil looked up at us from his office, I hazarded a wave. I didn't think he'd respond, but he just waved a hand in my direction, lips twisted into a semi-smile. At least he didn't seem like the world's most disappointed uncle anymore. Reuben and I passed Winter on our way out. He was standing with arms folded over his chest, looking at someone else's monitor, and stopped us as we neared him. Toxicology is back, and they didn't find anything out of the ordinary. But it turns out 2 of the initial responders also reported an odd smell in their reports. A metallic smell with a citrus quality, same as Dahlia. They said it was particularly strong when they first arrived on the scene. Neither reported any other symptoms, so I'm not sure it's connected to anything, but I've been doing a search on chemicals that can affect Espers, and the information is non-existent, of course. Right now, we're leaning toward either a personal loss of control or a psychic trap. We were reading extremely high residual psi waves at the scene. You said you could see psi, Dahlia. Did you see anything unusual? I don't know what a psychic trap looks like, so I can't say if what I saw is unusual or not. It's also possible that it was just exposure to the psi waves in general. Your psi is more sensitive than what we're used to, so we may need better protocols for introducing you to crime scenes, such as waiting for residual psi to dissipate first. If we frame it like that, then the blame's on us for this one. That's a good point. In both problem situations, we took Dahlia to a crime scene only a few hours after the crimes occurred. That's enough for the average Esper, but maybe not a high-ranked one like Dahlia. We'll have to be more careful going forward. That'll be my personal recommendation, anyway. Thank you for... He shrugged it off, nodding toward Reuben. Reuben's been the one advocating for you all day. Thank him. No, I'm thanking you. If you really thought it was a problem, I have a feeling you wouldn't be doing any of this. Boom. Yeah, well, no one wants to see you fail. We're just all a little on edge, that's all. He gave me a tired smile as he waved us away, saying he'd be staying a while longer. I was glad the entire thing hadn't crumbled out from under me at once, but I felt bad about making extra work for people, even if I didn't think it was my fault. But I was happy they were willing to give me the benefit of the doubt. This time. I had a shower while Reuben made dinner, and I spent my entire shower going over what happened. The psychic trap thing was a convenient excuse for me, but if there was a bundle of psionic energy there, why hadn't I noticed it? Hi, James. How's it going? I'd been aware of the threads in their position. Granted, I'd been looking for them. But some kind of strange large bundle of psi-energy? I should have seen that too. What if we never found out for sure what happened? I would have to be careful going forward. I couldn't afford to mess up again. I couldn't afford to have everyone lose faith in my ability. And I couldn't get through this with just Reuben's support, grateful for it though I was. Whether it was a psi trap or something else, I needed to keep control of these stupid abilities. I needed to be better at this. Oh, you're fine. Resting my hand against the towel, I watched the water swirling down the drain, almost amused by how much that felt like my life at the moment. I was still on shaky ground, and I just had to find a way to stabilize the situation again. I shut the water off and stepped out of the shower. Dwelling on it wasn't going to help. I would just have to work harder. Much harder. I realized how hungry I was when I stepped into the hall and the smell of food hit me. I'm the same way. Yeah. Take 2. What, it didn't work the first time? Yeah, once I smell food, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize how hungry I was. Wandering into the kitchen, I watched Reuben for a moment. Something warm stirred in my chest as I thought about how staunchly he'd defended me today. I did my best to ignore that flutter as I went to lean against the bar. It's almost ready. I decided I'd make goals lame. I hope you like it. It smells wonderful. It looked like some kind of stuffed flatbread, and it really did smell amazing. it's savory Turkish stuffed turnover. Oh. Having trouble with your internet again? You were having trouble with it before, weren't you? There's nothing to indicate how you pronounce the dang thing. So yeah, it's basically a stuffed bread of some kind. And it really did smell amazing. Feeling better? He pulled the last gold lame off the cooktop and moved it to a plate on the bench. I went to retrieve 2 glasses because it looked like he hadn't set anything other than the food yet, and I needed something to do with my hands. Better. Just frustrated, of course. Helping aside, I hate not understanding my own abilities. I hate losing control like that. It wasn't your fault. I know, or I believe that anyway. This is the first time we've gotten like an affectionate thing. Some kind of throttling from your ASP? That's annoying. Thank you for believing me too, Reuben. I can't express how grateful I was to have you on my side today. Look, in the few weeks I've been able to get to know you, I think I've come to understand what sort of person you are. If you really thought you'd lost control, you'd be open about it, or at the very least, you'd be very bad at lying about it. I think that's a compliment? I slid the glasses onto the bar and Reuben paused what he was doing to look at me. He reached out, almost hesitating before he let a hand rest on my shoulder. As worried as I was about you, you were calm at the crime scene. I can't say what happened, but what's the point of having an Esper consultant if we don't believe her about these things? You're new to all this, so it may take some time for you to describe exactly what you experience. Dismissing this as a failure on your part instead of a possible connection to the crime is short-sighted. Besides, I just believe you personally, and as you're aware, I trust my instincts, because he's a pseudo-Esper. He's almost but not quite strong enough to be infantry. I caught his hand in mine, giving it a squeeze. Having you defend me today meant a lot. I know Winter and Phil were just being cautious, and I understand that. But still. He swallowed hard, and for a moment the air between us was heavy. With what? I wasn't sure. But something that made me all the more aware of that warm feeling fluttering through my chest. A feeling I kept telling myself I shouldn't let flourish, but that was flourishing anyway. I wasn't sure if Reuben felt it too, but he was the one to break the mood when he cleared his throat and stepped away, giving me an awkward smile. I got a message earlier that they've located a potential place for you here in my building. I'm not sure if they informed you yet. They've put a hold on the lease for now to try to reserve it for you. I know you're staying here for a while longer at Magnus's recommendation, but you can always start moving some things into the other place. Not that I have things. That, at least, is something we can remedy. I hate the idea of paying rent in a place I can't live in. That's only temporary, I hope. Maybe once or twice, and then hopefully you can move there and have your own space again. I'd like to hope you won't have to have protection longer than that. I don't mind having you here, but I'm sure you'll be grateful to have your own place as soon as it's possible. He wasn't wrong, and yet there was an odd empty feeling at that thought as well. I didn't know how to express that, so I kept it to myself while we finally had dinner. As we tried several times to start up and hold on to conversations about things other than what happened today, I realized how difficult it was. It occupied so much space in my thoughts that I couldn't focus on other things, no matter how much Reuben tried to distract me with them. Reuben ended up explaining how psionic traps work. We talked about psi responses to chemicals or technology. He wanted to know more about the odd smell I'd encountered, though I didn't know why it was so important to him. He's probably not sure either. When I asked, he said he was just curious, but I wasn't sure that was true. Yeah, I can talk. And I eventually decided to go to bed early because my brain felt it would explode from thinking about it too much. I was feeling sad and frustrated, and sleep seemed like a good way to forget it all for a while. Reuben said he still had some work to complete, but he stopped me before it disappeared down the hall. He gave me a lopsided smile when I paused and looked back at him. Sorry for shooting you today. Sorry for injuring you and destroying your crime scene. He laughed and shooed me away. I laid in bed for a long time, still thinking about it all, even though I wanted to sleep. And every time thoughts about the stupid power surge died down, I'd just see Reuben's face in my mind. That was almost worse. I knew where this was heading. I could tell. This fondness, coupled with the fact I found him very attractive, was a dangerous combination. I liked him. I'd already told myself to be careful, and here I was, not being careful. It was too complicated. We hadn't known each other long. We had met in a weird way. Our relationship was odd. Something that had started as work, but had long since moved into a bizarre, undefined area. I rolled over, draping an arm over my eyes as I bit back a groan of frustration. Power surges and complicated relationships sound like the absolute worst combination, right? It was a long time before I started to feel drowsy. And finally, everything faded into sleep, and I didn't have to think about any of it anymore for a while. Chapter 7. Surrender! To what? We still got time, and it's only been an hour. I awakened with a jolt and stared at the ceiling with hazy eyes, unsure what had pulled me from sleep. It dawned on me a split second too late that it had been the sound of the front door chime, and it chimed again. There it is. I was out of bed and grabbing clothes to throw on before I paused. Where's Reuben? It was still very early, not even light out, so why wasn't he answering the door? I quickly finished dressing and peered into the hall. Everything was silent. He wasn't in his study, either. I was already in the living room when I realized I could just use my spirit to look around and figure out where he was and who was at the door. Expanding to encompass the house, I quickly concluded that Reuben was gone, and Winter was at the door. I don't know why, but I was instantly anxious and hurried to the door. Winter? Dahlia, sorry to wake you. Where's Reuben? That's why I'm here. I'm sorry to stop by so early, but I figured you'd be waking soon, and... Winter, where is Reuben? Reuben's in the hospital. What? What? What happened? I was stuck with this chapter. 5 minutes later. Also me. I literally started this chapter. I want more. Yes, exactly. What? How? Why? Were you aware that early this morning, a few hours ago, he returned alone to the Emerson crime scene? No, I was asleep a few hours ago. Why would he go back? Winter studied me for a moment, and I was certain he was trying to gauge whether I was lying. If you were trying to work out whether I'm lying, give it up. I didn't know he went anywhere. I went to bed early, and that was the last I saw him. I was not in the mood to deal with his accusatory stares. That's fair. And I've been told I have a terrible poker face, so you'd probably be able to tell if I was lying anyway. Right? Winter sighed, shoving his hands into his pockets. Reuben did mention the poker face thing. I was just surprised by the idea he'd leave you alone without saying anything. It's not like he doesn't do this, but... Anyway, we should head to the hospital now. I can give you the details on the way, I guess. I grabbed his arm before it could move away from me. Is he okay? Is Reuben okay? He wasn't great earlier, but was conscious and recovering by the time I came here. Recovering from what? What happened to him? Dahlia, he had a power surge after revisiting that flat. My heart dropped straight to the ground, and it felt like the air had been knocked from my lungs. But he's just a P-class. He shouldn't... Is that even possible? According to his emergency physician, it's rare but possible, particularly in life-threatening situations. Was he attacked? Did the killers return to the scene? Did... Winter grabbed my shoulders and forced me to look at him. First, I need you to calm down. He released me and stepped back, running a hand through his hair, and I realized he must also have had an early morning awakening. Yeah, don't try to see if I was lying. Where's my man? Stop wasting time. Yeah. I need to see him. I need to see him. Let's get to the hospital. Let's stop talking here. He looked tired. No one else was at the scene but Reuben. This is the location at which I think this should be your, not you, power surged, and claimed it wasn't because of your emotional state. We're looking into what it is at the crime scene posing a danger to Espers or those with higher than normal psi, because that's Reuben's case. The office is in an uproar again. Seems like that's been the normal state of things since you arrived, but I guess this one isn't your fault. No, I've been asleep. How could it be my fault? For now, let's get to the hospital. We can talk more on the way. I nodded, numb and confused, and went to grab some shoes. I was a mess the entire drive. Winter also didn't have a lot of information about what exactly happened. He received a garbled call from Reuben a few hours ago, and it gleaned only that he was at the crime scene and something was wrong. He was the one that got Reuben to a hospital where they diagnosed severe psi fatigue due to a power surge. But it was still a mystery what caused it. Reuben had been in little condition to answer questions. Well, of course. Oh, 1 or 2 in the morning? No, at that time in the morning, I'm asleep. Or in bed with my computer off. I turn my computer off at night. I don't put it in sleep mode or anything. I know some people do, but I'm like, no, I'm turning it off. It needs a rest. But Reuben wasn't an Esper, and power surges could be devastating even for brains used to dealing with large amounts of psi. For someone like Reuben, it could be deadly. But I couldn't help the sense of unfortunate relief as well. Relief that I had been right, that I wasn't the problem. Even so, I never wanted vindication at the cost of someone else, especially not Reuben. Reuben was... I clenched my hands tight, staring down at my lap. The other feelings were inside me besides the anxiety and relief, this deep concern for his well-being. I cared about him so much, so very much. He most likely had gone back there because of me, and now... this. Damn it, Reuben! When Winter and I arrived at the hospital, I expected to be shown to a room with Reuben on a bed, and I was dreading it. So when I saw him standing at a desk in the hallway, coat in hand, apparently checking himself out... If you could talk in your sleep, surely you can Esper in your sleep? No, Reuben, do not check yourself out, you idiot! Reuben! He was haggard, disheveled, with the amount of relief that hit me when I saw him. Reuben? His face quickened, angry footsteps falling heavy on the tile floor as he strode toward the desk. I followed behind, unsure if I should interrupt the verbal lashing I felt coming. What do you think you're doing? Checking myself, Talia? Why are you... Hey there. Winter, you didn't exactly have to go all the way to my place to drag her here. I'm not exactly dying. You're not exactly doing well either. Look at you. Did they even say you're cleared to leave? I decided there's no point in staying. I'm feeling better than I was earlier, just a little hungover. There's no point in staying for further observation. Oh, you're doing this stuff in the middle of the night? No wonder you're exhausted. You're going to be even more emotional. Reuben? Winter was cut off when the person at the desk handed Reuben a small digital card to sign, which he did quickly. You're all checked out. Please follow your physician's recommendation for rest for the next 40 hours. Sure thing. Yeah, right. Reuben set his hand on my back and motioned us all down the hall. We can't talk here, so let's head outside. I'm sure you're curious. Yeah, let the protag check you out. That's an understatement. When I saw you before, you couldn't string 2 sentences together. What happened? When did you head back to the scene alone? Look, I'll try to answer your questions. Just let me go in the correct order. He talked quietly as we walked, clustered tight together so he could keep his voice down. So, first of all, I went back because I had a feeling about it. I left about 2 in the morning and thought I'd be back before you woke up, Dahlia. I obviously didn't anticipate a power surge. A feeling about what? Oh, that's sweet. The only visual novel that made you stay up all night? That's sweet. No, I usually end up just spending an entire day playing visual novels, and I'm like, oops. About why you power surged there, Dahlia. He was determined to prove that something at this scene triggered the surge. So he went back to personally look around. At least we now know the answer to that, and I found something the teams missed earlier, so... Reuben, finding the answer to that is not worth putting yourself in danger. What if something more serious had happened? What if you... I'm fine, Dahlia, and despite what Winter says, it wasn't just because of you. If there's a dangerous compound at the scene, then we need to know for certain. You didn't have to go this far, though. I wasn't trying to make myself ill when I went back. But either way, we've confirmed something is there now. We just have to figure out what it was you and I both came into contact with during the times we were there. That way the other teams can. We aren't doing a damn thing. You're going to go home and rest first, Reuben. I will rest after... No, you can't. You always do this. Go off on your own because of your feelings without including anyone else. Well, congrats, Reuben. You proved your point and landed yourself in the hospital. You scared the shit out of me. You scared Dahlia. Also, Phil is pissed at you, so congrats on that, too. Winter, I can't believe you didn't call me to... Jaw tightened as he cut himself off, and then he tucked his head down and quickened his pace, leaving us behind as he disappeared down the hall. Oh, so this is a common occurrence for Reuben. Great. Guess he's pissed, too. Well... I don't blame him. I screwed up this time, going there alone. I didn't think anything would happen, and here we are. Guess your feelings aren't always a good guide after all. No, I guess not. Winter's just worried about you, I hope you realize. Yeah, I know. He gave me a sidelong look and a weary, questioning smile. Yes? Yes, what? Yes, I'm also angry. I know that's what you were about to ask, or at least what you were thinking. Ha! Looks like I owe a lot of apologies this time. I really want to lecture you about what it was like to be woken up by Winter at the front door telling me you were in the hospital. But every time I try, it just sounds like something Mum would say to one of us for doing something dumb. Yes! I think you said you played Arcade Spirits before? The same author for Arcade Spirits and the New Challengers also has another game besides those that's completely unrelated called Penny Larceny Gig Economy Supervillain. So I recommend that one too. It's available on itch and Steam as well. And I'm way too young to already be sounding like my mother. My mom mentioned a story about one of my cousins. Yes! Visual novels. I was so happy when I discovered them. But yeah, one of my cousins was driving some nieces or nephews or younger friends somewhere, and she said something or other, and she pulled over and she's like, I sounded just like my mom. Oh no. Well, thank you for sparing me the lecture. I'm afraid I'm in for quite a few of them soon. It doesn't mean I'm not mad, though. I can't even fathom what you were even thinking. Was it that hard to tell someone? To tell me? Is this just what you do? Should I get used to this? Get used to... The words slipped out, but they were words I didn't even have a right to say. Get used to it. What did that even mean? It wasn't like I was his girlfriend or something. I didn't have a right to be this frustrated, much less be worried about some future implications. What future? Sorry, I'm sorry. Forget I said that. We should go catch up with Winter. It was a tense ride home. I had a feeling Winter had a lot to say, but was holding back because of me, so no one really spoke. I thought he might drop us off and speed away, but he came inside to talk, and that was when the tension broke. Bride of Darkness. Yeah, really. Sometimes you don't need to be psychic to know stuff. Probably he was like me in that he couldn't stay mad at anyone for long because he seemed far calmer by that point. So, what happened with the thing I gave you earlier? Dropped it off before I went to pick Dahlia up. Thing? We forced Reuben to lie on the sofa, so I was making everyone something to drink. I carried it into the living room and set it on the table before hesitantly joining Reuben on the sofa. While sorting through the scene, he found a tranquilizer cartridge of some kind. He was still holding onto it when I found him later. Based on the condition of the cartridge, it had been fired. It's logical to assume it was during the incident. Who wanted to tranquilize who in that situation? This crime scene makes no sense. We don't know it was a tranquilizer in the cartridge. We're calling it that, but the cartridges can deliver any sort of medication or substance. The cartridge was crushed, but not in a way that makes me think something heavy landed on it. Since the initial search has soon turned it up, it may have been under something and have been disturbed with your power surge reorganized. It wasn't covered in dust, as if it had been lying in some corner for ages, either, and there's still fluid on it. It would be a hell of a thing for the Emersons to have lying around. What in the world happened at that apartment? Dahlia, we may need to get you back there at some point to see if we can get a clearer timeline of events. Not until we're sure it's safe. Both of you had a strange power surge there now. It sure as hell proves it wasn't just Dahlia's side being unstable, so we can't afford either of you going back. I ended up having a minor power surge after I picked up that cartridge. Now, I didn't touch it. I picked it up with a handkerchief and put it in an evidence container. But I put the handkerchief back in my pocket with my bare hand, and the cartridge did have fluid on it, but I tried to avoid touching it. I didn't even think of something more dangerous than a sedative being in that cartridge, and I power surged a few minutes later. The cartridge wasn't broken in a way that suggests something heavy fell on it during Dolly's power surge. It looked like something squeezed it in the middle. If the cartridge broke somehow after being fired, it could have released some of the chemical inside into the air. Particles like that can remain suspended for hours in an unventilated room. But it should have affected everyone then. Not necessarily. First of all, even if there were particles of it in the air, it wouldn't have been a heavy enough saturation for everyone in the room to encounter it. In addition, let's go with the theory that the cartridge contained an unknown substance that can affect psi. There are a number of elements that could change how it affects people. For instance, a person's psi threshold and the amount of the chemical they're exposed to. For instance, the higher a person's psi level, the less chemical exposure is needed to trigger a surge. If this is all true, then we should know with the lab results, right? Yeah. All of this was fine as theory, but there are still some significant problems. How did the cartridge break and release anything into the air in the first place? Maybe some kind of gun malfunction? But why did anyone have it in the first place? What would even be the point of causing people to power surge? But it may explain why there was stronger psi waves in the apartment than just accounting for the cousins being, I think one was a P class and the other was just regular. Did the chemical have some other purpose? What exactly was the nature of this crime? I couldn't put the pieces together in any sort of logical combination. How long until the lab has results? They'll rush it, so it could be any time. I'll check with them when I leave. You're still under orders to rest, Reuben. I'm going to ask Dahlia to make you hold to that. It's not that big a deal. The psi fatigue isn't even serious, and the doctor said there would be no permanent repercussions. I'm pretty much back to normal already. I narrowed my eyes and stared at him until his psi came into focus. Your psi is still unstable, I hope you realize. I can see it fluctuating, so I know you're not back to normal. Winter gave him a smug look. Looks like you forgot your girlfriend can see psi. I think Reuben and I both nearly choked when he said that. Winter can see it. Winter can see it. Of course he can. Winter, that joke isn't funny. That smug grin on Winter's face didn't budge, and for a long moment I wanted to strangle him for using me to harass Reuben. I did not need to be thinking about that sort of thing again. And on a long list of things that aren't funny is also you not realizing how close you got to an official reprimand and mandated leave this time. You're going to rest today. I think it's in everyone's best interest for you to take a step back, because if Phil sees even a hint of you for the next couple of days, he may lose it. Fine, I get it. Everyone's pissed at me, but it's not like I didn't find something important. Possibly. We don't know what the hell that cartridge was. We gave your gut instincts a lot of credence, but this time we need actual evidence. I'm going to head to the office. We still have a lot to dig up on the Emersons and what they were up to. And I'll be doing it by myself today. Thank you. I hope you realize you owe me for all the work I've been shouldering the past few weeks, Reuben. Yes, they do. I would love to do more with Winter. I was very disappointed when I realized that there'd be no Winter. Wait, that didn't sound right. I would just like to know more. There is a lore book, but I'm not going to buy it until I finished all the routes. Side characters providing the shade that the main characters need. Winter was already on his way to the door as he spoke. Dahlia, do not let this guy do any more work, please. Just keep an eye on him. Tie him to the bed if you have to. He'd like that anyway. Winter! I'll do my best. The watching part, anyway. I don't have confidence in my knot, so I'm not sure about tying him up. You two, please, just stop. You brought it on yourself, you idiot. Winter smirked over his shoulder as he pulled open the front door. Be grateful your punishment is just a little teasing. Next time you won't get off so easy. I get it. There won't be a next time. Yeah, right. I'll be in touch when the lab results are in. Dahlia at least deserves to hear about that. You can send it to my home to... Yeah, no, that's not what resting is, Reuben. I'm not kidding, Dahlia. Watch this guy, make sure he really does rest. I'll do my best. And he was gone. Took his almost untouched cup back to the kitchen and Reuben sat up. You're totally going to keep working, aren't you? If that cartridge held a substance that triggered psi disturbances in you and me, the lab won't help as much as you think. I know, everyone's so hot. I have looked at Changeling, but I have not actually tried to play the demo or anything. Maybe after I finish Gilded Shadows. At best, they'll find an unknown chemical compound with unknown properties. But I know of a chemical substance that can indeed affect psi, one that's being researched in multiple places. What? Well, it's more like knowing about rumors of it. I don't have as many details as you might like. I know it exists. Conspiracy theory stuff? This one's a little more than that. But I need to talk to someone who has details I don't have. I do have a contact, though, an unofficial one, and I need to talk to him. But yeah, it's not just Gilded Shadows and Changeling that has the gorgeous characters. Also, Arcade Spirits, and When the Night Comes, and Errant Kingdom, even Call Me Under. Yeah, I'm following the Tumblr for Steamberry. So, once I finish with Gilded Shadows, I'll start looking at their other games. I suppose I can't stop you from making a call. I'm not sure how much unofficial information from an unofficial source is going to help us when we don't even have lab results back yet, though. I already know what those lab results are going to say. And I want information more solid than unknown substance. Maybe something that will help us stumble onto a new lead. I rejoined him on the sofa, pulling a pillow on my lap as I gave him a tired glare. I'm kind of tired of stumbling on things. Can't we just walk over and pick this one up deliberately? Reuben chuckled as he stood, his hand coming to rest on the top of my head for a brief moment. I'll do my best this time around. Who is this contact of yours anyway? Well, we don't share much personal information, so I don't know his real name, but he's associated with the place that comes up in some of my unofficial case files. Yeah. Yes, definitely penny larceny. Like, even the other heroes and, well, some of the side characters aren't that attractive in penny larceny, but yeah, definitely. A place that happens to have a connection to a substance reportedly being researched in various locations. A person whose name you don't know. That's associated with a place connected to a substance that might be researched in some locations. That sounds nice and mysterious. He lives in a shadow dome there are some rumors about. A dome I had been trying to find more information about for a long time. Turns out he's also been looking into the same rumors and how they've been spreading. All of this circles back to a substance that was discovered there, but has made its way out here. We've been in contact a few times about it. I take it Winter isn't aware of this since you haven't mentioned it previously? He is not. For him, this stuff is just my hobby. He doesn't take it seriously, so we don't discuss it much. Anyway, I know the chemical Q's worried about involves Espers and being able to alter psi. Q! Would this happen to be Quill, one of the other possible love interests? Q. Are you suggesting the Shadow Dome is researching how to amplify Esper abilities? Because that's... No, that's not it. My information is limited because he keeps it pretty close to the vest. But Q suggested the discovery was accidental. And that research is restricted in Nissa. Nissa? Nissa? Small tertiary dome of Aurelia that is not an officially recognized part of the nation. In fact, by official records, it's a non-functional dome with no recorded population. It is in fact a city of around 60,000 individuals, most of whom are biosynths. Oh, yeah. But Cloud has such a punchable face, though. There's also a small community of Espers taking refuge in the city. First populated over a century ago, it began as a few dozen people. Like many such communities, they chose a dome attached to a larger city because it was in relatively good repair and still had functioning systems. Began to rehabilitate the dome, cleaning it up, and slowly forming a thriving community. Nissa grew slowly through most of its existence, though the populations exploded in the last few decades, growing to a small but impressive city. Though much of the dome is still uninhabited, rehabilitation continues as the city continues to expand. Nissa is still run more like a small business than a city, often lacking oversight and strict regulations for various organizations. They are overseen by a central committee that functions similarly to a board of directors. However, many are aware that the larger the city grows, the more it will need a more rigidly defined governing body. Well, they're also pretty, so that's not saying much. Given the nature of its citizens, the question of whether to remain hidden or go public has become a recent topic of public discussion. However, it's clear that greater societal change will be required if its population of biosynths and espers is going to be accepted by the international community. Questions of whether our colossus is ready for that shift remain unanswered. Nissa is not entirely self-contained, but deals only with Aurelia and sometimes some Nomos cities. But he has reason to believe the research leaked to the outside. It would be of high value to several groups out here. Yeah, no duh. Sorry, had to stretch. For a while now, we've been trying to connect the dots, pinpointing where their research might be leaking to. If this pans out, it would be the clearest connection yet. Fine, I'll allow one call. Thanks, I appreciate being allowed a phone call. Standard protocol for an arrest, from what I understand. I wasn't arrested, though. Close enough to house arrest to count. He laughed, and for a split second it felt like he'd almost reach a hand out to me again. But he let it fall to his side as he shook his head and started towards his study. Spent the rest of the day watching him like a hawk. Not that I could stop him from working, as expected, but I did give it a solid try. Winter called before Reuben was able to reach out to this queue of his. The preliminary lab results were back, and just as Reuben said, the cartridge he'd found contained an unknown substance. Further testing was needed to identify its attributes. It wasn't an explicit confirmation that whatever it was had affected the two of us, but they wanted us both to go in for additional blood work as well. Reuben seemed even more certain he was right after that. He talked to his contact right after. I sat in the hallway just out of sight, listening in, but finally joined him when he disconnected. Reuben had more than a page of notes he'd taken during that call. He was reading over it when I went in and didn't look up at me. I suspected he knew I'd been listening. That was more productive than I thought. I think he was shaken by the fact I encountered this stuff personally this time. For the first time, I have a name I can attach to this thing. Some specifics. Specifics like, well, we know it can enhance, but we also know it can leave people debilitated or dead. I mean, I was aware of some of that already from other projects, other research, but this is definitive information, not the usual. I leaned against the edge of his desk, watching him tap his fingers on the notes. Can't put it in the case file, but at least it gives me something to look for. Must have a list of exact physiological markers. Quill doesn't know how relative they'll be, even if it's the same chemical. Their information is years old. Quill! I was right! It is Quill! Quill? Yeah. I think he felt responsible or something. He was much more forthcoming with information, including his real name. Why was a cartridge with a substance so experimental it's not even public knowledge in that apartment, Reuben? Arsenal. Aerosol. The substance is called aerosol, and he looked down at his notes for a long time. Maybe it has something to do with the project the victims had become involved with? So far, Winter still isn't sure what that was a reference to. He did find out that within the last year, both started working at Community Sci as guidance leaders, so that could be it. Esper support groups again. Yeah, I noticed that too. Odd that's come up again in what should be an unrelated case. It's not the same group, but I think we need to look closer at Community Sci and what they've been up to. So Quill Throat was pretty good? I'm guessing from that reaction. I mean, I'm gonna play through all of the routes, so... But not on stream. This is... Once I finish Reuben's route, that's it. I agree. Reuben stood and stretched, turning the notes face down on his desk. Cocaine. We need a break from this for a while. Dinner? Which I will be making, and no, we will not be ordering takeout so you can avoid letting me cook. I'm aware. I'm a mere university student, but I can make passable food. Genre is rich, yeah. I never suggested you couldn't, but I mean, you're a guest, so you still think of me as just a normal house guest? It wasn't exactly wrong. It wasn't exactly wrong, but at some point I didn't know. Maybe I was just a normal guest. No, I mean, you're not a normal house guest. You. I listened to him stumble over how to explain my role here, and somehow felt better. I didn't want to be a normal guest, but I wasn't sure anymore what I wanted to be. Maybe he didn't know either, though, and that was better than being confused alone. At least let me help you. I don't need rest that badly. Let me cook for you. Darn it, it's not that hard. Fine, I will concede the argument and let you cook for one night. Thank you. I'd already been certain I could bully him into that. They're so adorable together. Like, they're both definitely attracted, but they're both like, I don't know if we should be doing this, if we should become involved, because it's so complicated. I already had an idea what I would make, something simple enough I wouldn't mess it up. Though I was always nervous cooking for people, since it wasn't like I was an excellent cook or something. I'm just relieved that with all today's developments, it's now clear that you're not responsible for your own power surge. I'm glad about that, but still frustrated you went back there alone, I hope you realize. That was my mistake. I'm just used to doing things like that without considering the fallout. There isn't usually someone to worry about, me not being here. I paused, pulling ingredients out of the cabinets, and turned to look at him. He was leaning against the edge of the bar, arms crossed, but he wouldn't look at me. But I'm sorry for worrying you. I didn't mean to. He half mumbled that, staring towards the window. That's not. I rearranged stuff on my desk and had to put them back. That isn't what's bothering me, Reuben. That wasn't even your fault. Worrying me and Winter is frustrating, yes. But something unexpected had happened, and you couldn't have planned for that, gut feelings and all. In fact, having one of us there with you wouldn't even have prevented it. So that part wasn't even your fault. The part you need to rethink is not trusting us. I swallowed hard, somehow finding the courage to say the next part as I clenched my hands on the countertop and refused to look at him. Not trusting me. Maybe your current relationship has worked, and if so, then I'm badly out of line here. But I can't see it that way anymore. And the fact you didn't trust me enough to at least tell me where you are going is what frustrates me. It isn't that. It was that. You didn't trust me to want to come with you, to be willing to forego sleep, or to take care of myself if I returned to that place. Or else you just didn't see that I needed that much information from you. That's why Winter's angry too. You didn't trust him to be willing to go, or to trust your instinct to return. Your issue is not trusting that people want to help you and believe in you, or trusting that people care enough for your wishes to be important to them. And that's what's upsetting. Trust the people who care about you, Reuben. I promise we're worth trusting. I'm sorry. You keep apologizing, but I'm not mad or anything. Not anymore. I was mad for 2 minutes before I was just worried. I know that. Good. I was glad to get that off my chest, but I didn't want to keep beating him up for what happened when he had apologized so many times anyway. For a moment there was silence before I heard him come into the kitchen. So, what exactly are you cooking tonight, out of curiosity? One of the only curry recipes I know. I thought so. That's a lot of stuff to prep, though. It looks like a lot, but it's an easy recipe once you get everything chopped and ready to go. I glanced at him suspiciously, and sure enough, he was eyeing the pile of ingredients. I knew what was coming before he even said it. No, Excuse me, give me that onion right now! He laughed and stepped back as I made a swipe for the pilfered vegetable. Nah. Reuben, no, you are Resting. He smiled as he lifted the onion out of reach when I made another grab for it. I have enough stamina to chop a single vegetable. You are so stubborn. You should trust me to help you. That is not a fair line of attack. Throwing her words right back at her. Of course he is. Of course he is. Do I have to play fair all the time? Yes! I lunged for him again, this time pinning him against the far bench top as I tried to get the stupid onion. Because now it was the principle of the matter. He's being cheeky and I couldn't let him win. And he was holding that stupid thing just out of reach because he was annoyingly tall. And at this rate, I was going to have to climb either him or the counter to reach it. That was, I think, when I realized he'd frozen in place as I leaned against him, reaching for the onion he was holding above our heads. When our eyes met, all the confused feelings came crashing back in, and the smile on his face softened. I know what's coming. For a long moment, neither of us moved. You know, Dahlia, about what you said earlier, you were not just work to me. Yes, it's so pretty. No. It was obvious there was no way he really saw me that way, but this was the first time I thought maybe I wasn't the only one that had noticed the occasional softness between us, that wanted to explore it, let it grow. My heart fluttered anxiously as I looked up at him. There's so much about him that I liked. The smell of his cologne, his messy hair, the dimple in his cheek when he smiled, the bit of fuzz along his jawline. Even how frustratingly duty-bound and stubborn he could be. I wanted so badly to... Of course I'ma kiss him. That's why I picked this route. Perhaps it was a combination of days of battling the growing attraction and the realization that I wasn't sure what place I currently filled in Reuben's life. The growing hope of what place I could fill, though. I don't know. I don't know why I did it. But I went up on my toes, closed my eyes, and kissed him. He saw it coming and didn't move away, but still jumped slightly when our lips touched. There was a hesitant shaking sigh against my mouth, tense and uncertain. He still didn't move away, but he was holding back. I wasn't sure how to read that response. When I started to move away from him, his hand went to the back of my head to hold me in place. The other one joined it as he tenderly held my face and kissed me back. I knew it! I knew he would do it! I knew he would! All the tension left our bodies like something unwanted had been cast away, and for a split second he kissed me with an intensity that almost surprised me. Like a part of that hesitant want managed to escape. I was so relieved that it wasn't just me. But it only lasted for what felt like a few seconds. And when he pulled away from me, the look on his face was almost panicked. Of course he's gonna panic! He slipped out from the tight space between me and the bench top, leaving me leaning against it alone. I wasn't sure what to do or say. I wasn't sure if that had been the right thing to do or the wrong thing. Reuben spoke first, his voice steady but hoarse. I don't think I should have done that. Right. Okay. Regrets. Got it. No regrets. No regrets allowed. We let out a silent exhale, quickly working out how best to set him at ease. I didn't know why he regretted it, but I had a few guesses, so I just had to downplay it. I turned to look at Reuben, tipping my head back and allowing a slight smirk on my face so his back was to me. Steal the onion? Probably not, frankly. I'm the one who's cooking and you don't even know the recipe. Dahlia turned to face me, the look on his face serious and devastating. My heart slammed against my ribs when I realized the attempt to deflect fell flat. Of course it did. He's not going to let you distract him. I didn't want him to regret. I didn't want to hear that. I initiated that, just to be clear. It was me, not you. What I meant was, I just think it might have not have been a good idea to let what I want get out of hand. Reuben, that was one of the least out-of-hand kisses I've ever experienced. Not saying it was bad, not at all, just not out of hand. I clasped my hands in front of me, trying to work out how to say what I wanted to say. Can I at least be allowed to think you did want to kiss me? Yes, of course. I mean, he gave me a helpless, pleading look I didn't understand. Isn't it obvious? It isn't, not if I'm having to ask about it. Dahlia, I completely adore you. Look, she's blushing! I'm pretty sure he's blushing too. I've been trying so hard to not... I mean, you're only here because you need to be here, so I don't think it's fair for me to do this to you. But Ugh. He turned around away from me again, one hand pinching the bridge of his nose. Winter warned me this was going to happen. Look, just ignore me, okay? This is my own thing to work through, and I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything. I don't feel that way, so I'm going to have to stop that line of thinking right now. I mean, maybe I feel I owe you at least one edible meal cooked by yours truly, but I'm not the sort to feel I owe someone affection, no matter how nice they are to me. Deconstructing the whole nice guy thing. This part is so cute. It's definitely worth replaying again. You have a lot on your plate right now. You don't need some pathetic man begging for affection from you. How fortunate for me that there aren't any pathetic men around. Dahlia, Reuben, I like you. That's it. It's not deeper than that. Maybe it is a little predictable, but assuming it's out of obligation, not that my spending this much time with you has shown me you're a good person, the kind of person I can grow to like, is unfair, isn't it? You've only seen my good side, Dahlia, not the part of me that drives other people away. The part that's obsessed with work and always busy, and the part that leaves in the middle of the night without telling anyone, then gets into trouble at a crime scene he's not supposed to be at, so that his partner has to come knocking on the door before dawn to say he's in the hospital? I was just thinking of that. Dahlia said exactly what I was thinking. That part? I just think that it's unwise to do this right now. That's fair. I'm not trying to argue about wisdom. I'm just talking about what we want and don't want. Because it sounds like you're admitting you're interested in me too, and there's nothing wrong with being attracted to each other. The timing is a completely separate topic, though. I don't want to ruin things like I always do, Dahlia, by getting too attached too fast, by wanting too much, then blowing it all up. Like I always do. Alright, are you saying you want to pretend I did not just kiss you? Because we can take things slow and see where it goes, or we can ignore it and keep everything professional. We don't have to force anything. Not if you don't want to. I just think it's reached a point for me where I have to know where this is heading. Every route then she says something that is thinking or literally say it at the same time. Yeah, that happens not just with this, but with other games that I play too. Like, I say something and then I move on and I'm like, oh, that just said what I was just thinking. I won't be upset regardless of your answer. I want you to understand that. I just have to know. I mean, we're on chapter 7, so this is so we're halfway through the route, so it's about the right moment for this to happen. Okay, wait, let me stop you there. First, let's talk about what you want to do, not what you think we should do. Yes, I love it. I love that she's being assertive, that she's making it clear, this is what I want to hear from you. No, you are not saying what I want to hear from you. Things like should and shouldn't can come after we establish what we both want. Because I can't help but feel hiding what we want behind obligations to do something else isn't a great foundation. For people who are trying to figure out how to build relationships, this is a good example. Communication, making it clear, establishing what each person wants, and then deciding, do we want to follow this? I know what I want, but I'm fuzzy on where you stand. I wasn't planning to have this conversation tonight, but it seems like maybe it's time. It might not be wise to ask me what I want, because if given the choice, I always seem to want to jump into everything, no matter how irresponsible. I mean, we have permission to be irresponsible as long as you buy me dinner first, which you have on several occasions. Yes, communication, that's definitely something that, as I've gotten older, that's definitely become very important, especially not just in playing video games, but also writing fan fiction. and having a choice, and choices that matter. That was Mom's requirement. You've talked to your mother you've discussed this with your mother? The incredulity in his voice, coupled with the disbelieving laugh, eased the tension a little. I was able to breathe a little easier with that. Well, she always just sort of asks. Mine too. She looked up your profile and declared you incredibly handsome. The color in his face deepened adorably, and with the tension somewhat dissipated, I reached out to touch his arm, tentative and not wanting to cause more stress. Are we okay? We've always been okay, Dahlia. The problem has always just been me. Hey, you aren't a problem. We have time to work out what this is, unexpected developments and all, but only if that's what you want. I don't want you to feel pressured either, though. You can always say you want to stop things here. He let out a soft bark of laughter before he pulled me into a very gentle hug. What I want is this. What I want is to be completely reckless. That does sound more like you. He laughed again, and I finally let myself lean against him, eyes sliding shut. That's what I want, too. Good. That's good. I pulled away and smiled up at him, flipping a lock of hair out of his eyes. Then I glared at him and pointed past him. Now get out of the kitchen, produce thief. And the last of the tension was replaced by quiet comfort, amusement, and so much relief from the both of us. Fine. This time. Before we relocated, he let his fingers linger against my shoulder for just long enough. It was an undeniable and hopeful caress. I was going to have to think a lot about all of this later, but for now, the mood lifted. The food turned out fine, probably not as delicious as Reuben insisted it was, but I appreciated the sentiment. Later, we moved to the sofa to talk about the case and other things over a cup of tea. We talked about his family, mine, when he first started working with Winter, somehow the day at the fountain, and Endgame. Magnus and all the messages, reports, and drafts he'd been sending me. It was sort of winding conversation that flowed from one topic to another, though none of them were otherwise connected. We sat at that perfect distance from each other where it could just be casual friends or it could be something more. Reuben seemed okay with that amount of space. When we finally went to bed, I made him promise there'd be no more midnight ventures anywhere. And I spent another night watching the play of lights across the ceiling while thinking about him and where things would go now. But I was glad we'd talked. I was glad that I could look forward to how things would develop now instead of trying so hard to avoid it. I was scared too, but glad. Okay, yeah, that's it for today. I really want to keep going, but I can tell that my voice is fading, and it's, we're getting to my usual, time limit. So let's look at the galleries again, because we can. Where is it? Reuben. So pretty. I haven't gone so far as had a dream about Gilded Shadows, but I've definitely been thinking about it in between streams. Like, there's a part of me that really, 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 really wants to keep going, but I'm being good. I'm not playing more. Well, maybe a little bit, but I'm not playing further in the route. I'm letting that be a surprise. Okay, so thank you to everyone who joined me. I hope you all have a great day and a great week. I'll be back on Sunday with Gilded Shadows. I don't know about next Wednesday. That's up in the air. It depends on if there's stuff going on in real life. So yeah, I hope you all have a great time, and if anybody's watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And take care. Bye.